5:41 local time, Strait of Hormuz. The first contact shows up as a faint surface return off the port bow of the carrier group. Small, fast, almost invisible. On the screens inside the Combat Information Center, it looks like random noise for less than 2 seconds. Then another contact appears. Then 3 more. Then an entire line. By the time the Surface Warfare Coordinator speaks, the count has already reached 11. Multiple fast inbound contacts bearing 086 to 110. Range 9 nautical miles. Closing. No one aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln needs that translated. Not here. Not in Hormuz. On the bridge, the captain barely moves. His eyes shift from the horizon to the repeater display, then back again. The carrier stays on course. 2 escorting destroyers hold their stations, one forward to starboard, the other slightly aft to port. Both are already pulling more information from the water than anyone can see with the naked eye. At first glance, the sea still looks calm. Blue water, early sunlight, long shadows stretching across the flight deck. But calm can be misleading in a place like this, especially when 30 small boats suddenly stop moving like civilian traffic. Inside CIC, the picture sharpens second by second. 18 tracks, 22, 27, then the final count appears. 30 confirmed. Multiple fast approach profiles. That changes everything. The boats are not following a commercial lane. They are not keeping normal separation. They are not drifting across the carrier's path by accident. They are spreading into 3 clear clusters, each one using speed and spacing like part of a larger design. One group angles wide toward the starboard side of the formation. Another stays low and flat off the port quarter. The last group drives almost directly up the center line, not toward the escorts, but toward the water the carrier itself is about to enter. On the flight deck, yellow shirts stop a tow already in progress. A strike fighter sits chained to the deck with its canopy open, the pilot ladder still hanging in place. A deck crewman turns toward the horizon and raises a hand over his eyes. At this distance, the boats look like hard black marks, slicing white scars across the water. Too low for drama, too fast for comfort. Bridge, CIC, small craft contacts increasing speed. Lead elements now above 35 knots. That gets everyone's attention. The first radio hail goes out from the destroyer, screening the carrier's starboard side. Unidentified Iranian small craft. This is a United States Navy vessel operating in international waters. Alter course immediately and maintain safe distance. No answer. A second hail follows. Then another. English first, then Farsi. Still nothing. The boats keep coming. There is nothing random about the geometry now. Even from the bridge, it is visible. These are not fishermen surprised by a carrier group. They are moving with purpose, tightening angles, forcing decisions. Every minute they close, the amount of water available to maneuver gets smaller. And in Hormuz, there is not much room to begin with. The escorts adjust their posture without breaking formation. Deck mounts turn a few degrees. Electro-optical systems lock and track. Long-range cameras pull tighter images through the glare. Electronic sensors begin collecting low-power signals from the approaching boats. Short bursts, boat-to-boat traffic. Coordination, that matters. It means this is not just a crowd. It is control. 5:44 local time. The range drops below 7 nautical miles. On one console, a petty officer begins tagging the most concerning boats by speed, heading, and spacing. Some ride bow high, light, and aggressive. Others sit heavier in the water. More men aboard, more equipment. One contact briefly yaws across a wave line, and the camera catches something under a tarp near the bow. Long, tubular. Not enough for a positive identification. Enough to remember. Possible mounted system on lead contact. No one overreacts. They log it and keep building the picture. Above them, the carrier remains a city of steel moving forward. That is the part many people miss about ships this size. They do not stop just because the moment turns tense. They keep going because sometimes stopping is the riskier choice. A bosun's mate on the starboard catwalk watches the nearest cluster through binoculars. 30 seconds ago, he could only see wakes. Now he can make out hull shapes, low profiles, open tops, men packed close together, spray bursting around them as they drive through the chop. They're not slowing down, he says quietly. He is right. 5:46 local time. The lead elements are inside 5 nautical miles. That is when the atmosphere changes for good. The destroyer off the starboard bow shifts just enough to make the message visible. Not reckless, not uncertain, controlled, deliberate. Its forward mount tracks left. Its wake widens. A Seahawk helicopter lifts from the deck of the aft escort, its nose dipping almost immediately toward the inbound contacts. Inside CIC, every track now has a number. Every number has a priority. The captain finally speaks. Set defensive response stations. Hold course. No one acts unless they cross the line. No one asks where the line is. They already know. Ahead of them, 30 Iranian boats keep closing through the morning glare, spreading wider, moving faster, drawing the ring tighter around one of the largest naval platforms on Earth. And for the first time that morning, the men watching from the carrier's deck can see them clearly enough to understand one thing. This is no shadow. This is the opening move. 5:47 local time. The water ahead looks open until you study the chart. Then the problem becomes clear. The carrier group is entering one of the tightest operating spaces in the world. Commercial lanes, restricted depth, coastline never far away. A Nimitz-class aircraft carrier can dominate the open ocean. In Hormuz, even a ship that large has to respect geometry. And geometry is exactly what the Iranians are using. Inside CIC, the contact picture has stopped changing in one way and started changing in another. The number holds at 30. The shape does not. What looked at first like one wave of fast boats is now separating into layers. Outer ring boats stay wide, crossing back and forth just enough to complicate the screen. Middle ring boats begin pressing toward the destroyers, forcing them to track multiple bearings at once. And the inner group, the most serious group, keeps driving toward the water directly around the carrier. Bridge, CIC, swarm is splitting by function. This is deliberate. No one on the bridge needs convincing. They can see it now without optics. Dark hulls bouncing over the chop, rising and falling together. Their wakes cutting the morning sea into converging white lines. Each cluster is working a different angle. Not enough to overpower by size, enough to overload decisions. The carrier holds steady. That is the part that feels wrong to anyone watching from the outside. 30 fast boats are closing in, and the largest ship in the formation is not turning away. But carriers do not move like patrol craft. Not here. Not inside a narrow traffic channel with escorts close around them and aircraft equipment still exposed topside. A sharp course change now would ripple through the entire formation. It would distort coverage arcs, compress safe lanes, and create exactly the confusion the swarm is trying to force. So the order stays the same. Hold course. Let the escorts and aircraft shape the situation. 5:48 local time. The first boat cuts across the bow of the lead destroyer at just over 2 nautical miles, close enough to force a recalculation. The destroyer does not break. It answers with posture. Mount trained, cameras fixed, warning hails repeated again in English and Farsi. No response. A second boat flashes across the optics feed. This one carries more men than the last. One of them stands behind a mounted object near the stern, body braced, both hands locked to the frame. The image is unstable. Salt haze, speed, spray. No positive identification, but it is not fishing gear. Possible crew-operated system. Contact 16. Tagged, logged, prioritized. On the carrier's flight deck, the noise changes. Not louder, sharper. All of them are looking off the starboard side now, where the nearest boats can be seen without binoculars. They are smaller than most people imagine. That makes them more troubling. Low in the water, difficult to follow by eye. Fast enough to vanish for a moment behind their own spray. A chief petty officer points toward the nearest group. Look at the spacing, he says. They are not crowding together. They are leaving room to maneuver, room to split, room to make the Americans question which hull matters most. That is what swarm tactics really mean. Not just speed, not just numbers, options. 5:49 local time. The Seahawk drops lower. Its rotor wash presses the surface beneath it flat as it pushes ahead of the escort screen. The nose camera feeds live imagery back into CIC. The helicopter does not need to engage. Not yet. Right now, its greatest value is vision. It can see beyond the destroyer's horizon line, down into the wakes, through the clutter, across the movement. It turns confusion into a clearer picture. Air contact has eyes on lead cluster, count 12, multiple armed personnel visible. Now the details come in faster. One boat carries a mounted heavy system. Another appears to have a rack fixed near the bow. 2 more are carrying extra fuel drums or supply cans lashed toward the stern. Then one contact draws everyone's attention. Lead contact from portside cluster just uncovered a launcher-shaped object. Repeat, launcher-shaped object. The CIC watch officer does not raise his voice. He does not have to. That single phrase changes the room. The destroyer to port angles outward, widening the defensive ring, not dramatically. Just enough to block a direct approach toward the carrier's flank. Its wake curls hard and white behind it. The maneuver is controlled, but the message is clear. You are not getting closer without a response. The Iranian boats keep pressing anyway. 5:50 local time. Range to nearest contact. 1.8 nautical miles. The swarm is close enough now for the uncomfortable details to stand out. Men crouch low behind shield plates, faces covered, equipment slung across their backs. Hulls slamming into wave crests with enough force to send spray bursting over the bows and sweeping across everyone aboard. The whole mass looks unstable, not because they are losing control, because they are willing to operate right on the edge of it. That is what makes the situation so serious. Another update reaches the bridge. Closest point of approach on 3 contacts now below 1,500 yards and decreasing. For a moment, no one speaks. Then the electronic warfare operator breaks the silence from CIC. Short-duration radar sweep from starboard side lead element. Low power. Could be targeting support? Could be. That phrase hangs in the air for half a second. In a moment like this, half a second is enough. The captain looks through the bridge glass at the nearest cluster, now pushing hard out of the glare line, and gives the next order. Graduated response authorized. Warning line has been crossed. No one celebrates. It is not relief. It is simply the end of one phase and the beginning of another. Outside, the Seahawk banks sharply and drops even lower over the approaching boats. The destroyers tighten their sectors. Crews settle behind their stations. Carrier remains on course, massive and steady, while 30 Iranian boats continue closing into the narrowing water around it. There is still time for them to turn away. None of them do. 5:52 local time. The first visible response is not the loudest sound on the water. It is a warning flare. A bright streak launches from the starboard destroyer and cuts low through the morning haze, arcing down ahead of the lead Iranian boat. For half a second, the red glow reflects across spray and steel. The message is impossible to miss. Turn away now. The boat does not turn. It keeps coming. Bow high, engines roaring, a hard V of white water spreading behind it. 2 more boats surge forward with it, using the flare as a marker instead of a warning. One shifts slightly right toward the destroyer's outer screen. Another continues straight into the narrowing gap between the escort and the carrier's projected path. Inside CIC, the picture compresses all at once. Lead contacts inside 1,000 yards. Port cluster accelerating. Starboard inner group maintaining intercept. No one speaks quickly. They speak clearly. Then the first unmistakable hostile move happens. A flash snaps from one of the boats in the starboard cluster. Small, sharp, low over the water. A split second later, something strikes the sea off the destroyer's bow and throws up a narrow column of spray. Not a warning, not an accident. The line is gone. The response comes instantly. Engage designated hostile contacts. The order moves through the formation like current through wire. On the destroyer's starboard wing, a gunner answers with a short, controlled burst from a mounted heavy system. Not wildfire, not panic. A measured line cuts across the water ahead of the lead boat, then shifts onto the hull when it still refuses to turn away. The impacts strike low. The boat snaps sideways. Its bow digs hard into the chop. One engine coughs out a burst of gray smoke. A second later, the hull rolls sharply to port and vanishes behind its own wall of spray. The Seahawk is already above it. The helicopter drops to an unforgiving low altitude, rotor wash hammering the sea flat beneath it as the crew tracks the next 3 boats on the same approach. Through the nose camera, the details are clear now. Life vests, headsets, covered faces. One man crouched behind a mounted system, another lifting a tube-shaped launcher, trying to steady it against the brutal pounding of the hull. Too late. The helicopter's door gun fires in a tight burst. The line crosses the boat's bow. The launcher breaks apart in splinters and spray. The hull hooks violently left, slams into its own wake, and nearly throws 2 men over the side. 5:53 local time. The swarm reacts all at once. Not by pulling back, by splitting apart. Some boats swing wide, forcing the escorts to choose between immediate pressure and possible flanking runs. Others push harder, gambling that speed and confusion can still break the outer ring. The water ahead of the carrier becomes a moving grid of intersecting wakes. Every line has purpose. Then the first rocket comes. It launches from farther back, from a boat hidden inside the middle layer. The smoke trail is short and ugly. The round looks unstable almost the moment it leaves the tube. It skips above the waterline, passes wide of the destroyer, and bursts off the port side in a low orange flash that throws spray across empty sea. No hit. But that no longer matters. Everyone in the strike group has seen enough. On the carrier, the flight deck has changed completely. Aircraft are being moved away from exposed positions. Yellow shirts move quickly, but nothing is wasted. Ordnance crews secure equipment. Fire teams and medical crews are already staged below key access points. No one is waiting to learn whether the next one comes closer. One of the boats almost does. It slips through the outer confusion and charges straight for the gap between the carrier and its port side escort. Riding flat and fast, too committed to turn without losing control. For one heartbeat, it looks like it might reach the inner ring. It does not. The port destroyer shifts just enough to close the lane. Its systems are already trained. A short burst walks across the water and strikes the boat's forward section. The hull lifts, twists, and flashes briefly before dropping back into the churn. Debris scatters across the wake. The gap disappears. 5:54 local time. 6 boats are now out of the fight, stopped, smoking, rolling, or broken apart by precise defensive fire. But the swarm is not finished. It is adapting. The surviving Iranian boats stop charging in straight lines. They begin using offset angles, crossing one another's wakes, trying to stretch visual tracking and test fire discipline. One group feints toward the destroyers, another cuts closer to commercial traffic farther north, forcing the Americans to factor in background clutter and safe engagement lanes. Inside CIC, the reports keep coming. Track 2-3 armed. Track 09 maneuvering for stern approach. Track 1-2 possible second launcher. Recommend prioritizing port inner group. The carrier's captain hears it all and gives nothing away. His ship has not changed course, not once. That matters. It means the center of the formation still holds. It means the swarm has not forced the carrier group to lose control, but it has changed the fight. Then, at the far edge of the surface picture, new signals begin to appear. Not boats, not yet identified. Not yet. Something farther back. Something beyond the immediate chaos. The electronic warfare team catches a heavier burst of activity from the Iranian shoreline. Radar, communications, cueing signals. A wider network waking up behind the swarm. The boats were never supposed to handle this alone. Across the water, smoke from disabled hulls begins to flatten in the rising heat. The Seahawk rolls into another pass. The escorts continue responding in controlled, precise intervals, and the carrier keeps moving through the center of it all. A moving airfield surrounded by speed, steel, and seconds. The swarm has lost boats. It has not lost purpose. And now, with the first layer broken apart, everyone inside the American formation understands the same thing. This was only the opening, 5:58 local time. By now, the surface fight has found a rhythm. It is not disorder anymore. Not for the Americans. For the Iranians, maybe. For the 30 boats that came in fast, split wide, and tried to overload the screen with speed and proximity. Definitely. But inside the U.S. formation, the noise is becoming structure. Targets have numbers, sectors have owners. Every controlled burst, every maneuver, every warning call is now part of a system doing exactly what it was designed to do. That is when the balance begins to shift. Bridge CIC, surface picture stabilizing, recommends sector engagement by priority groups. The answer comes back immediately. Approved. The escorts stop reacting boat by boat. They start handling the swarm as a pattern. The destroyer to starboard takes the fast movers, trying to hook around the carrier's bow. The portside escort locks onto the cluster, attempting to drift aft and probe for a stern-side approach. The Seahawk stays overhead, no longer chasing single hulls blindly, but marking the boats that still show intent to reach the inner ring. That matters. Because once intent is separated from noise, everything becomes simpler. 6 o'clock local time. The helicopter swings wide, then cuts back low over the water. Through its optics, the surviving Iranian boats no longer look like one unified threat. Some are still pressing. Some are hesitating. Some are clearly searching for a way out without making it obvious. The early aggression is fading. In its place is something far less useful in a close-range confrontation. Doubt. A 5-boat cluster off the carrier's starboard quarter tries to use the only opening left, a narrow interval between the carrier's outer wake and the destroyer screening forward. It is a smart move, tight, fast, timed to match 2 other boats feinting farther east. From above, the Seahawk reads the move instantly. Air contact to surface action. 5 boats, vector 310, inner push, lead boat armed, rear boat carrying fuel or supply containers aft. Inside CIC, the track numbers flash up together. The destroyer does not swing wildly toward them. It only adjusts enough to close the angle and preserve the defensive line. That small correction is the difference between a trained Navy and a frightened one. No wasted motion, no overreaction, just geometry. Then the Americans spring the trap. The helicopter moves first, crossing hard over the lead boat's bow. Rotor wash blasts spray into the faces of the men aboard. They duck by instinct. That split second matters. It breaks their sightline, it breaks their timing. At the same moment, the destroyer's defensive system answers with a short, controlled burst. Not at the whole group, just at the lead hull. The boat vanishes behind spray and debris. The second boat swerves left, straight into the disturbed wake of the first. It slams down hard off a wave crest, throwing one of the men aboard sideways against the mount behind him. The third tries to cut right and finds the carrier's security ring already waiting. Too close, too exposed. Nowhere useful left to go. A second controlled burst from the escort walks across the water in front of it, then into the engine section. Smoke pours out immediately. The hull loses speed and begins to yaw. The remaining two boats break away. Not cleanly. One nearly clips the disabled boat ahead, cutting across its wake so sharply that the hull skips and shudders. The formation is gone in less than 10 seconds. That is the moment the Iranian swarm begins to come apart. 6:02 local time. It does not fall apart all at once. Swarm tactics rarely do. They fray. A few boats are still pushing forward from longer range, trying to look dangerous enough to keep American attention fixed on them. Others drift toward the edges of nearby commercial lanes, using civilian traffic and background clutter as partial cover. One boat circles wide off the port side. Maybe it is searching for an opening. Maybe it is simply trying to stay alive long enough to receive new orders. But the central fact has changed. They are no longer shaping the fight. The carrier strike group is. On the flight deck, the difference is visible even to sailors who have no tactical display in front of them. The first few minutes felt like being surrounded. Now the mood is harder, sharper, controlled. The deck crews remain in emergency posture. Aircraft are still secured. Fire teams are still staged. But the edge of uncertainty has faded. Men who had been watching the horizon for the worst are now watching American systems do exactly what they were built to do. One petty officer looks out over the starboard catwalk as another Iranian boat turns away and mutters, "They're starting to feel it." He is right. 6:04 local time. Another cluster tries one final coordinated push. 5 boats this time, packed tighter than the others, driving for the slot between the carrier and the aft escort. It is the most dangerous move the Iranians have attempted since the engagement began. If even one of those holes gets through, the situation could change again. But now, the Americans are waiting for exactly this. The Seahawk pins the lead boat with its optics and holds it there. The aft escort shifts left just enough to narrow the corridor. The forward destroyer keeps pressure on the outer boats so they cannot support the run. Every American platform is doing a different part of the same job. The lead Iranian boat keeps coming anyway. It gets closer than any of the others have since start. Then the escort responds. A short, controlled burst hits the hull. The bow lifts, stalls, and drops back into a violent wall of white water. The second boat turns away almost immediately. The third overcorrects and slams sideways into the wake of the first. The last two never even reach the line. They peel off while they still can. Just like that, the last credible push toward the inner ring is over. 6:05 local time. CIC to bridge, outer security ring re-established. That is the sentence every ship in the formation needed to hear. Not because the danger is gone, because it means the swarm has failed. More than half of the Iranian boats are now disabled, scattered, stopped, or holding well outside the zone that mattered. The carrier remains on course. The formation remains intact. The Americans have taken the fight away from speed and confusion and handed it back to systems, discipline, and controlled response. Then the electronic warfare operator speaks again. New emissions from shoreside, increased radar activity, possible queuing from coastal systems, or airborne drone support. The bridge goes quiet. Everyone understands what that means. The boats may have been the main event, or they may have only been the setup. 6:07 local time. The sea is no longer full of momentum, it is full of consequences. Smoke hangs low over the water where the first boats were stopped. Broken wakes smear across the surface in every direction, crossing, fading, and dissolving into the morning glare. What had arrived as a fast, coordinated swarm now looks uneven, damaged, uncertain. Off the carrier's starboard side, one Iranian boat sits motionless in the water, its bow low, its stern drifting broadside to the swell. Farther out, another is still moving, but barely, dragging a gray ribbon of smoke behind it. And through the middle of all of it, the USS Abraham Lincoln keeps going. That is the part that matters most. The carrier has not stopped. It has not turned away. It has not surrendered the lane. Inside the Combat Information Center, the surface picture is finally clear enough to read in full. The surviving boats are no longer converging. They are separating. Some turn outward in pairs. Others fall back alone, trying to make retreat look like repositioning. A few still linger at range, just inside the edge of relevance. Too far to reach, too close to ignore. Bridge, CIC, multiple contacts opening distance. No coordinated inner push observed. For the first time in more than 20 minutes, that sounds like progress. Not victory, not yet. Just progress. 6:08 local time. Then, one last cluster appears to make a decision. 4 boats, maybe 5, depending on the spray line, accelerate from the carrier's aft starboard quarter. It is not a full swarm anymore. It is a final attempt. Small enough to move fast, large enough to be dangerous if the formation has relaxed too early. It has not. The Seahawk sees them first, already orbiting wide after its last pass. Its optics lock in before the boats fully commit. Air contact to surface action. Final group pushing from aft starboard. Range 1.6 nautical miles. Lead boat armed. 2 trailing close. The aft escort answers by tightening its angle just enough to deny the corridor. No dramatic turn, no overreaction. Just the exact movement needed to put steel and defensive systems where they have to be. The carrier itself remains steady, enormous, and unreadable, continuing down the channel as if the fight around it is only weather. That steadiness breaks the Iranians more than anything else. Because swarm tactics only work if the target begins to behave like prey. The Lincoln never does. 6:09 local time. The final group comes on anyway. The lead boat rises and slams over the chop, engine screaming, its hull skipping across the wave tops. Behind it, 2 others try to hold formation, tucked close enough to exploit any hesitation. Another boat trails wider to the outside, maybe carrying more fuel, maybe extra supplies, maybe simply hoping to rush the line if someone else draws the first response. The first response comes fast. The Seahawk cuts across the lead boat's bow, low and aggressive. Rotor wash hammers the water flat beneath it. Men aboard the Iranian craft throw up their arms and shoulders against the spray. The escorting destroyer responds almost at the same moment. A tight, measured stream reaches across the gap and strikes the forward section of the hull. The effect is immediate. The lead boat yaws hard left, so sharply it almost rolls. The second boat breaks formation to avoid it, then finds itself exposed in open water with no lane left to take. Another controlled burst lands across the surface just ahead of its bow. This time, the message is enough. The boat turns away hard, its wake curling white behind it as it abandons the push. The third boat hesitates, and that hesitation ends the entire attempt. Within 2 seconds, the group is no longer a group. One boat is disabled, one has turned away, one is drifting wide. The outer boat sees the corridor close, sees the helicopter still overhead, and breaks off before it ever reaches the danger zone. Just like that, the last serious pressure on the inner ring disappears. 6:10 local time. Bridge CIC, final push broken. No contacts inside exclusion line. The bridge stays quiet after that call. Professional quiet. Not because no one understands what it means. They do. Every sailor on the bridge, in CIC, on the catwalks, and down on the hangar deck understands exactly what just happened. 30 Iranian boats moved against a U.S. aircraft carrier in one of the narrowest and most dangerous waterways on Earth. And they did not stop it. On the flight deck, the emergency posture remains in place, but shoulders begin to ease. Yellow shirts move again with purpose instead of urgency. Damage control teams stay ready, still watching, still listening. But there are no emergency reports climbing the chain. No confirmed hit, no breach, no loss of control. The carrier's crew had prepared for the worst and found something else instead. Proof. Proof that speed alone is not enough. Proof that numbers alone are not enough. Proof that in a confined channel, under pressure, with seconds to decide and no room for mistakes, discipline beats desperation. 6:12 local time. Farther out, the surviving Iranian boats continue pulling away. Some move slowly. Some race for distance. None of them hold formation anymore. The sea behind them is marked by fuel sheen, drifting fragments, and the widening gap between what they tried to do and what actually happened. The carrier strike group does not chase. It does not need to. The point has already been made. The Abraham Lincoln continues its transit through Hormuz, still guarded, still alert, still watched by every sensor in the formation. Off to one side, smoke from a disabled boat flattens in the heat and begins to fade into the morning haze. Ahead, the water opens just a little more. Not much, enough. Because this was never really about destroying a carrier. It was about making it blink, making it turn, making it hesitate, making it lose control of the lane. That never happened. The swarm came in fast, loud, and committed. The American response came back colder, tighter, and more controlled. By the end, what remained on the water was not a triumph of speed or shock. It was a lesson. In Hormuz, 30 boats looked dangerous. A U.S. carrier strike group looked inevitable.